The golden age of America begins right now.
Goodman, global stock markets are tumbling after
Liberation Day, waiting for a long...
The economy is in trouble. The
Put America first.
American empire is in decline.
Empires don't collapse in explosions. They crumble in silence. Not in war zones, but in boardrooms. Not from invasions, but from indifference. The United States was once the world's unshakable superpower, the economic engine, the diplomatic broker, the military shield. But in 2025, the cracks are no longer hidden. Debt has surged past $36 trillion 0 cents. The dollar, once unquestioned, is being quietly replaced in global deals. Allies no longer wait for U.S. leadership. They plan around it. From failing infrastructure to internal division, from abandoned treaties to chaotic diplomacy, America isn't being challenged by a single rival. It's being outmaneuvered by the world it helped build. The empire that shaped the 20th century is facing a new question in the 21st. Can it still lead, or is this the beginning of the end? The American empire didn't begin with conquest. It began with confidence. After World War II, the U.S. emerged as the global stabilizer, rebuilding Europe with the Marshall Plan, writing the rules of global finance at Bretton Woods, and patrolling the oceans with unmatched naval dominance. The dollar became the world's reserve currency. American companies powered globalization. Washington wrote the playbook, and the rest of the world read it. It wasn't just about tanks or treaties. It was about trust that the U.S. could deliver stability, prosperity, and leadership. But empires don't fail because they're outmatched. They fail because they lose discipline. For decades, America spent more than it earned. It outsourced production. It ran trillion-dollar wars without exit strategies. It alienated allies with unpredictable foreign policy and treated global institutions as optional. It told itself that soft power was still intact, while others quietly built alternatives. China built Belt and Road. Russia carved energy corridors. Europe drafted digital sovereignty laws. And BRICS began testing alternatives to SWIFT, the World Bank, and even the dollar itself. At home, the foundation weakened too. The middle class shrank. Infrastructure aged. Politics turned into theater. America's greatest asset, its system, became its own liability. What made the U.S. powerful wasn't just its economy or its military. It was its ability to rally others behind a common vision. But that vision blurred. The rules it wrote were bent. And the world began asking, if America no longer follows its own principles, why should anyone else? That's how empires decline, not by losing a war, but by losing the narrative. By becoming just another country, instead of the country others followed. And in 2025, that decline is no longer theoretical. It's measurable. The empire didn't fall, but it's not standing the way it used to. Once, America's greatest strength was not its enemies, but its alliances. NATO, the G7, the IMF, all instruments of global power calibrated around U.S. leadership. But in 2025, those instruments are playing out of tune. The enemy at the gate isn't just China, it's irrelevance. And the allies? They're quietly backing away. Canada just signed a $214 billion 0 cents deal to deepen trade ties with Asia, bypassing U.S. supply chains. India is buying Russian oil in rupees. France is calling for strategic autonomy from Washington. And Saudi Arabia, once dependent on the petrodollar, is now selling oil in yuan. These aren't rebellions. They're exits. Silent withdrawals from a system too volatile to trust. Meanwhile, China isn't invading, it's investing. Across Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America, Beijing is laying down rails, ports, data cables, not to conquer, but to replace. And Washington? It responds with tariffs, speeches, or silence. Even traditional allies are recalculating. Japan is building its own defense networks. Germany is stockpiling gold. The UK is walking a tightrope between US pressure and Chinese investment. Because when American leadership becomes a liability, the world looks for options. And in a multipolar world, options are everywhere. This isn't just diplomatic drift. It's strategic abandonment. Allies once aligned out of loyalty. Now they align based on leverage. And America's leverage is shrinking, buried under debt, division, and distrust. When friends make contingency plans, when enemies no longer fear retaliation, that's not foreign policy. That's decline. Empires fall when the center weakens and the edges cut themselves loose. In 2025, America's rivals aren't fighting it directly. They're replacing its influence. And its allies? They're hedging their bets. Not because they want to, but because they have to. For over a century, America's economy was its greatest weapon. The dollar ruled, Wall Street financed, U.S. consumers fueled global growth. But in 2025, that engine is sputtering. Debt has passed $36 trillion, 0 cents. Interest payments now rival military spending. And instead of building, America borrows, just to stand still. Inflation has whittled down the middle class. Home ownership is out of reach. And wages can't keep up with basic survival. Yet Washington keeps printing, spending, and posturing. The result? Foreign investors are pulling back. China and Japan, once the biggest buyers of U.S. debt, are diversifying into gold, yuan, and commodities. And the dollar, long considered untouchable, is slowly being replaced in trade deals from Africa to South America. America's trade policy, tariffs here, subsidies there, no strategy, just reactions. Industries that once led the world, autos, chips, energy, are now vulnerable to foreign disruption and domestic dysfunction. And when the world looks at America's economy today, they don't see resilience. They see risk. The empire isn't just militarily overstretched. It's financially exhausted. A house can't stand when the foundation cracks. And in 2025, that foundation is debt, dysfunction, and denial. The American engine isn't roaring. It's stalling. While the rest of the world builds its own road, America still spends more on defense than the next 10 countries combined. Its aircraft carriers span oceans. Its bases dot the globe. But military power without strategic clarity is just noise. In 2025, that noise is getting harder to justify. Trillions have been poured into weapon systems, yet global influence is receding. Afghanistan ended in chaos. Iraq left behind instability. And now, U.S. allies watch as rivals like China expand without firing a shot. Beijing doesn't need battleships, it's building ports. Russia isn't invading NATO, it's reshaping energy corridors. And America? It's still selling missiles while losing markets. At home, veterans face homelessness. Recruitment numbers are down. And the Pentagon's biggest concern isn't war, it's budget cuts. The illusion? That firepower equals dominance. But real power is economic, diplomatic, systemic. And right now, the U.S. is losing on all three fronts. Even deterrence is fading. Iran tests boundaries. North Korea flaunts missiles. And U.S. red lines blur. Because the world isn't just watching what America builds. It's watching what it protects. And too often, that protection seems selective, self-serving, or delayed. An empire can't lead on bombs alone. It must inspire, stabilize, invest. And when the world sees military force without moral leadership, it stops following. America still has the guns. But the question is, does anyone still listen when it fires? Empires don't die in a day. They erode from within and from neglect. In 2025, the American empire is not gone, but it is unrecognizable. Its economy is strained. Its politics are paralyzed. Its allies are cautious. Its rivals emboldened. But decline is not destiny. History is filled with great powers that reinvented themselves. Not through might, but through humility, vision, and reform. The question now isn't whether America is in trouble. It is. The question is whether it can admit it and act. Can it invest in the people who build, not just the ones who bet? Can it rebuild trust abroad, not just issue warnings? Can it lead through example, not exception? Because if it can't, then the end won't come with fireworks or invasion. It will come quietly, as nations look elsewhere, as markets shift, as influence fades not with a bang but a shrug. This is the fork in the road. Decline is one path, reinvention is the other, but the window is closing, and the world won't wait. The American empire was built on boldness, innovation, and global vision. If it wants a future, it must find those roots again before they're buried for good. So ask yourself, is this the fall or the reset? And more importantly, who decides?